Hello, my name's Rob, part of the clergy team here in Portishead, and welcome to this week's Thought. The week that's just gone was the week of prayer for Christian unity, an annual opportunity for Christians throughout the world to pray for the unity of the church. We're reminded by Jesus' prayer for his disciples in John 17 that Jesus' desire was that his disciples would be one, and through their unity they would point others to God. Sadly, the church has not been very good at that. If you Google Christian denominations, you'll find that there are 45,000 different Christian denominations throughout the world, which is a rather depressing thought. Humanity finds ways of dividing itself, and that desire, that tendency has permeated the church. And as we look back through history, we can see ways in which Christians have been persecuted by other Christians, Catholics by Protestants and Protestants by Catholics. If we think back to the 16th century, the century of the Reformation, then we can see prominent Protestants who were put to death by the Catholic Church, Protestants like Latimer and Ridley. But we can also see in Elizabeth's reign the horrible execution of Catholic priests, people like Edmund Campion, who was hung, drawn and quartered in 1581. The church has not been good at being united. And of course, that's not to say that there aren't things that we are right to be firm on, to be clear on, that we will disagree. And yet, so often, disunity has gone much further than that, as indeed it does in the world. We have a dreadful tendency to look at those who are in different groups to us and think we know who they are and what they think. We have a tendency to regard others as somehow less human than us, less worthy of recognizing as being made in the image of God. One of the most powerful stories that Jesus told was the familiar story of the Good Samaritan. Even the title of it actually is quite challenging, because the suggestion that this is a single Good Samaritan suggests that all other Samaritans were bad, which would have been the way perhaps that the Israelite people, the people from Judea in Jesus' time would have seen them. But the story of the Good Samaritan reminds us that goodness is not confined to people like us. Here was a Samaritan who stopped and tended to somebody who was in trouble, who was from a different group from him. Not radically different. The Samaritans and the Jews believed some very similar things, and yet they had a tendency to see the others as less. The Good Samaritan stopped, cared for the wounds of the man who'd been attacked, took him to an inn, and left him there with enough money to enable the innkeeper to care for him. A profound and challenging story. Discussions between Christians and between people of different faiths are different things, but they do have something in common. And I've been struck recently by some things that a Swedish bishop, Krista Stendal, wrote about interfaith dialogue. And he said that there are three principles that need to underlie conversations between people of different faiths. The first is, if you want to discover about what somebody else believes, talk to them. Find out from the horse's mouth, if you like, what it is they think and what it is they believe. The second thing is, don't compare your best to their worst. It's a really helpful and important challenge that we can so easily do that, recognizing our own flawed nature as well. And thirdly, be open to the possibility of holy envy. I love that idea. The possibility that we might hear in what somebody else tells us about their religious practice, something that we go, oh, I wish we were a bit more like that. I think those are really lovely. And at heart, they remind us that we need to be humble people, that we need to recognise that whatever we think or believe, we don't actually have a monopoly of truth. And as Christians, that invitation to love our neighbour, whoever our neighbour is, and to be humble, are things that need to undergird all our relationships. In a world that feels increasingly fragmented, where there is an increasing tendency for people to see others as enemies rather than friends, it's really important that as Christians we demonstrate a different way of being. That in a conflicted and divided world, we model the example of Jesus, who came in love and humility to share his life with others, who saw the humanity of everybody he encountered and who reached out to them in love. And that needs to undergird who we are as God's people too, that we may witness to a different way of being in a conflicted and divided world. There are, it is true, many denominations in the world. There are divisions between us for many reasons. But actually, all Christians need to demonstrate that we are people who are motivated by love, because we know that God loves us. May God bless you.